What, like you? Yeah, it's a mad journey song, which in James we love those where you suddenly end up 5 or 6 minutes in and you're somewhere completely different than you thought you were going to be. It's quite dancey. And I think that's something again that Max has brought out of us. He's kind of encouraged that side of us, just to kind of, come on lads, let's kind of keep the groove going here. Rather than perhaps sonically just climax, which I think sometimes we have a tendency to do, to just kind of bang things harder and louder. Really, Right.
I think I'm most excited by that song to play live
Yes.
than anything else we've got.
Yeah, no, it'd be a real challenge, but that would be fun.
It was originally an hour and 20-minute jam. Like when we improvise, sometimes we improvise 15, 20 minutes and we stop. And you get 3 parts that make a decent song. And sometimes you keep going. And we have jams that go on for over an hour, quite a few. And then we literally either go through the hour and 20-minute jam and we mark our favourite bits. And there were too many bits. And it was like probably about 8 bits. And it was like, well, instead of chucking out 4 good bits or making 2 separate songs, how can we make these go together and make one song? And we worked hard at it. And it came together. Great piano all the way through. It's an example of, Mark isn't here, so he can't be embarrassed in this interview, but he always has been the quiet genius who we've always been trying to push forward. It's not his nature to take the spotlight.
And the rest of us don't deserve the spotlight, but are only too happy to take it.
We're American.
Yeah.
Mark's the only true English, modest, self-effacing, grumpy.
We love Curse, don't we?
And Lionel Messi.
And Lionel Messi, yeah. I mean, we played that chunk live before we recorded it, and it was fantastic. We thoroughly enjoyed that. Great tune, it instantly fitted into the set. And that is going to be a big anthemic James tune, you just absolutely know it.
Like, we don't write singles, we don't know how to write singles, we don't sit down and write singles, and we haven't written any for a number of years. We just write songs, and then you kind of go, oh, this looks like it might be a single. It's like it's a different beast, a different species. It has to be a bit of a bulldog and a Rottweiler. It has to be able to walk into a room full of other singles and shoulder them out of the way and go, me. And we can't fake that. It comes or it doesn't.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, on this record, we wrote 2, which is Moving On and Curse. But the exciting thing for us about Curse was it doesn't sound like a James song. It sounds like a James song, but it sounds like a different type of James song than any we've released. So we were most excited by that. And it's got the kind of playfulness of Laid. I mean, I got a bit of the lyric, but then I was aware, like, oh, I'm in Laid territory. I can really have fun with this. I spent months making that lyric tight and funny. And because it's hard to make jokes in songs without them becoming very boring after the 2nd or 3rd listen. So it's got to be, it can't be funny, it's got to be something else. But there's enough humour in that record. You listen to common people, and you aspire to that level of wit in a song when you're writing a song like Curse. We'll say it's a classic James single. Moving On. It is. And it's probably the one that deals most directly, or one of the songs that deals most directly with my beloved's dying. It's definitely about dying. But people will hear it in different ways. It could be moving on from a relationship, it could be moving on. But for me, it's about dying.
You've done a great job, I think. I mean, it's not an easy subject to somehow make work in a way which I think is accessible. And there is an English approach to the way I think we're dealing with things, but there's an openness to it as well. And I think that, like the dead imagery that we've kind of got into a little bit and that we're kind of interested in, is that kind of celebration of death. It's not that you know, the morbid side of it, or the angst-ridden. It's you're looking for that way of making it somehow positive, aren't you?
I mean, moving on lyric wrote itself. It wasn't. It didn't try to make it uplifting. It just, that's the way it came out. And that chorus probably came out in the first jam. That's the other thing, is I jam lyrics when we're jamming, and I might only get 2 or 3 that I'm going to then use, but they're usually, everyone in the room knows what the lyrics are going to be, and we'll go to remember a song, because we can jam hundreds of songs. They'll go, well, right, moving on, because I sang that the first time we did it. And then Saul and Mark, I think, chopped up this, I think it's a brilliant intro, that loop at the beginning. And the reason why I think it's particularly brilliant is because, to me, it sounds funereal. It sounds like bells at a funeral, but it's not obvious enough to depress the song, but it's an unconscious moment of where the music really associates with the lyric, and yet the song's very uplifting.
Gone Baby Gone represents probably one extreme on this record, because it's almost entirely technologically driven in some ways, isn't it? So it'll sound like that to people.
Yeah.
And I don't really know what it is, really. It's kind of
It's an oddity.
messed up, weird disco. I don't know what it is, actually. It's a strange song to quantify. And I guess in terms of it'll divide people, probably, I suspect. But it's got a big banging chorus. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, Tim was an early champion of Gone Baby Gone. He saw something in it, or heard something in it, that he found very appealing, and yeah, I like Saul. I mean, I find it a little bit of a curious song. I'm not
I think
quite
the closest.
sure. I think it's when we come to play it live, I think I'll get to understand it a little bit more.
Well, I think the closest we've got out of all the years of making records is it's Gold Mother. I think it's our new Gold Mother track.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as in it's based very heavily on a loop and a drum machine and all that kind of stuff, and then we kind of flow it in and out of it, but it's got a mad, weird sing along with it. It's a very good. Yeah, I think that's what I would equate it to. So yeah, it's a direct rip-off of Gold Mother.
Frozen Britain is, when we first heard it, there's a very identifiable guitar figure that Saul came up with. It was great, and that sold it to me. That sets the track up, and the track works. It works wonderfully after that, and it seems to have been getting a lot of really good response. It's been a calling card, a song that we've used as a calling card to introduce people to the album. It's not strictly a single, but the people that have heard it have really liked it. The fans seem to like it, and it's a great song to play live. And we did it on a couple of radio stations in session, and it was it seems to be one of those songs. We have a few of them in our canon that are very malleable. You can treat them this way, you can treat them that way, and they always respond, no matter which way you come at them. And Frozen Britain, I think, is a good example of that.
I think when we first found it, Jimmy and I thought it was like an editor's song or something, you know, kind of very heroic kind of tune. And I guess we've successfully managed to make it sound like New Order. That's a joke, by the way. You can edit that out. Although it does sound a bit like New Order. And Tim's kind of warbling away at the end, La Petite Mort pour toujours, has given the name of the album. So actually it's quite a significant song, really.
Interrogation is one of the songs that we've been playing live for quite a while on the last tour that we did and the last set of festivals that we did. It's a fluid song. It's got a lovely quality to it. It's great to play. It's really it's just a lovely thing to play. It's got a great groove, and it was one of those songs that always kind of stated itself, saying, I'm going to be on this album. You know, I'm not going away.
Well, we
'Cause
knew.
some of the
didn't
early
we?
runners, don't they? They fall away, but Interrogation seem to
Oh, you have to
have
work.
this quiet confidence.
Oh, you have to work hard on them to make them stick, don't you? Whereas, as soon as we did that jam, we knew that we had a song.
Yes.
And I remember that night at Jimmy's, we worked on that demo of it and put two little bits of audio together, and we had it. And it's basically not changed, other than the process of recording it properly as such. But it and some additions, some melodic additions that took place in the studio that have helped it a lot. But in essence, Interrogation represents to me where Gone Baby Gone represents one extreme, let's say, sonically of this record and the kind of attitude of the song. And I think Interrogation, along with Walk Like You and All I'm Saying, probably represent another kind of, there's a similarity between those songs, which is quite very James-esque, kind of engaging, taking our time. Neither Larry or I are in a position to comment at all with any confidence on the trumpet, because you'd have to speak to Andy about that.
Except that you can always rely on Andy to come up with beautiful trumpet lines.
Well, yeah. Andy, what do you reckon, mate? I don't know about that.
Bit of Virtue, when it's one of the songs where we got a bit demoitis on it, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think for good reason, because we chased it, didn't we, in the studio, and we added other things, and in the end those things were stripped away again, as we recognised that actually the space that inherently is in the song is probably one of the most important factors about it. And it gives a lot of really lovely space for the vocals to be heard, and for these relatively unusual elements, you know, a drum machine and a guitar, effectively, and a vocal.
Bit of Virtue lyrically is about, you almost have to read the lyric to understand it, because the first line is, living so close to loving, I is the difference. But also it's about how the difference between living, just living, or loving is usually ego, the I. So it's a kind of a pun on that. Well, you know, I live in America, and watching the homophobia and the war in states to prevent gay marriage has been, it's thrilling now, because you can see the walls coming down, and they ain't gonna win, those fuckers. And so it's exciting now, but it's been awful to witness, because it's the same as racism. It's like watching racism. It just makes you feel so angry and full of injustice and rage. And so I watch that kind of virtuous people in America, and it's the pun in the song is, you know, a bit of virtue or a bit of virtue. It becomes a bit of virtue. All in My Mind lyrically is about those dead bits in relationship that don't get spoken about and that need to be brought out. So the chorus, one of the choruses in there is, bring out your dead, sharpen up your stake, as in, you know, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Because I find for a relationship to keep growing and regenerating, you also need to kill parts of it, the relationship. You need to keep bringing out your dead, keep bringing out the bits that you don't want to face and don't want to talk about, that after 10 years will destroy the marriage, will kill the marriage if you don't do something about it.
Musically, All in My Mind it sounds really simple and straightforward, and I'm not quite sure how it ended up this way, but it's actually musically quite complicated. Like the bar lengths are really, really odd, and every time we play it,
it's so strange.
Oh, isn't it just? I have to have detailed notes in front of me, because we played it live a chunk leading up to the recording, and I'm just kind of reading all these notes going, okay, you're right, and I'm nodding to Dave and trying to key everybody in the right places. And
it's fantastic having those arrangements where people don't notice it's been well arranged. I find the Pixies are brilliant at that. Their songs sound so simple, but when you actually break them down, their arrangements are genius and simple. but off key, never quite where they should be or where you expect them. And All in My Mind has got lots of those moments, but they were so tricky that yes, it took us ages to learn, and we kept messing up.
Quick in the Dead was worked on, wasn't it? We had some initial idea of the song. Either it was from Scotland or it was from the rehearsal room in London. I can't remember where we generated the initial idea. I think it was maybe London. And then we got together in Mark's studio here in North London, and so the song came about really through that kind of an initial jam, and then bolting it all together, chopping and bolting together at Mark's place, and then presenting it to Tim actually and saying, look, we've kind of found this, we've discovered this, and it found a lot of favour, and again because we have a history, don't we, of writing songs in threes.
Yes.
We've done some crackers in threes, and it's our kind of it's a thing we do.
Well, Quick and the Dead's got this wonderful swooping keyboard idea. That's the one, isn't it? The transition between the verse and the chorus has that wonderful sweeping keyboard descent.
Could be award-winning.
Could be. Should be.
All I'm saying is very much about lyrically about the death of my friend. It's very, very directly about her. It came from a few weeks after she died. I dreamt of her, and it's strange when you wake up from a dream where you've been with the person who's died, because you're like, it's just like you can't believe they died. And so that song is, here's dreaming of you is the first line, and and you look fantastic. The cancer that you kept from me isn't showing. That's one of the other lines in the song, something like that. And so that one's definitely about her. We tried doing that. We've done that once. We tried playing it in Leeds. I kept bursting into tears, and do you remember? And it was like, and it didn't matter at all, and the audience were fantastic with it, and I explained, and we just got on with it. So that's going to be a song to get through the first few times. I think it'll be fine after a few gigs, but the first few times are going to be a little bit hard to get through. Whistleblowers, which is not on the album, it's an extra track. Whistleblowers is lyrically is self-evident. It's been watching the Bradley Manning stuff, it's been watching Snowden, and seeing these people are heroes. These people should be given medals. And we put them in prison. And it obviously makes me more upset than it should do. It just makes me furious, really. They're doing a public service for people and exposing what's going on in governments and illegalities, and yet they become outcasts. They give up their lives to give that information out. They've given up their lives. That's heroism. You can see I get emotionally upset by something which most people wouldn't get emotionally upset by. There's also, I know a few whistleblowers, personally, in organisations who have made that step and who have lost all their friends. And so I've witnessed it personally as well as seeing it publicly. I know the cost of it. And that I've witnessed that while we were writing the record. So it came into the song. It came into the song lyrically.
Lose your crown.